Hey Bob.
Hey, Mike, how you doing?
Good. How about you?
Doing all right. Great to see you.
I know. Nice seeing you too. Thank you for joining me on
Welcome
the
to
Club 600 podcast.
welcome to my home studio.
I know you got quite an impressive setup over there.
Thank you. Thanks. Thanks for having me. This is great.
Yeah, anytime, of course. I mean, you've been such an integral member of the club. It was only common sense to get you on here as soon as possible.
Thanks.
So, for some of our members who don't really know you too well, how about you go ahead and just introduce yourself and tell us a little bit about, what you do for the club and just sort of like your background in the fitness industry.
Sure. Interested in fitness all my life. When I was a teenager, I always thought that the military and basic training was the toughest training you could possibly get. I enlisted in the service partly because I wanted to experience that. I wanted to know what it was like. And basic training, to this day, probably the toughest physical challenge I've ever had in my life. 12 weeks of a drill sergeant just riding your butt, pushing you beyond what you thought you could do. I always thought, I'm tired, I can't do anymore. And then you realize, I've got another 8 hours of training ahead of me. I've got to do more. You're doing 18-hour days, you have a drill sergeant riding your butt. There's no alternatives. That really got me going. I've always been interested in fitness. Became a sports producer. I worked for 10 years for professional sports teams, covered the NFL, Major League Baseball, covered the Olympics for ESPN, covered the NBA for CBS Sports. So I've always been interested in sports. And when I was covering all the sports and the training, I go to training camps, say with the Dallas Cowboys. I started to befriend the coaches. I liked the coaches. I mean, I got along with the players and they were fun, but my fascination was, how do the coaches get the most out of the players? How do they do it? What do they do? And that's where I really got the real bug for it. And that sort of all of that kind of morphed eventually into me becoming a personal trainer after working with professional athletes for 10 years.
Yeah, that's a phenomenal source of experience and reference right there. I mean, I've known you for what, close to 3 years now. And before we were chatting the other day, I never even knew any of that about you. And that's just awesome that you could have gotten so many different experiences in so many different fields.
Yeah. It's always fitness and wellness has always fascinated me. Even as a kid, I used to look at adults and I used to wonder, why does this 65-year-old look and act like he's 30? And why does this 30-year-old look and act like he's an old 65? It always fascinated me, see how people aged and how the healthy people aged and stayed healthy until they die, as opposed to the people that just seemed to have a waning lifespan and had a lot of sickness and a lot of illness. That always fascinated me. And I always realized that fitness and wellness and keeping the body healthy and the mind and the body together is key.
Yeah, that whole mind body connection is the absolute key, like you're saying, to just having a quality life, quality standard of life. People just are able to age gracefully. I've seen people even here, they're well into their 70s, 80s, 90s, and they're still getting after it as if they were somebody who's like my age, a 23-year-old kid. And I look at them and I just think it's phenomenal that they're able to push themselves to that limit at their extended age. It's just incredible what the human spirit really does, combined with a good mindset.
Absolutely.
Now,
When I
how has
was
it been training remote? I mean, you have like a nice studio set up and everything over there, but has there been like a good amount of pros and cons compared to when you used to train, 6, 8 hour days here at the club?
Yeah, still doing 6 to 8 hour days here at home studio. It is quite different. Some ways superior, some ways not as good, of course. I love the energy of being in person. I love being in person. I love the exchange, like the energy. I love being part of it all. That part I really miss. That's a big thing that's missing. The nice stuff about it is with video, I get a fantastic total body three-dimensional view. So I can look at your biomechanics just very clearly and without distraction. And that's another part of it. When we're doing this one-on-one, I don't have any distractions. The client doesn't have any distractions. Many of them have told me they work harder, they get more done virtual than they ever do in person. Because in person, you have interactions with other people, you got to go from here to there and so forth. Whereas doing it personally, you're on it, you're on it, you're on it. One, next. And you're plowing through 25, maybe 30 exercises in an hour and getting a nice head to toe look at people. I can really get a super clear look at their biomechanics. I mean, I can do it in person, of course, but it's really nice how it encapsulates it into the vertical screen. and I can see things. They just jump out at me about this is wrong or this is wrong, or why are you having a certain pain pattern? I can see why you're having a pain pattern, because your knee is caving in, your glutes aren't engaging, your abs aren't integrated, wherever it is. It just pops out clearly on the screen. Causes me to be a hell of a lot more creative. I got to say, it's a lot easier at the gym to, okay, let's go to this piece of equipment, this apparatus, let's go run outside and do this. I got a little box, I got a square, I got to keep it interesting. I got to do total body, I got to get cardio, I have to get strength training, I have to keep them engaged and interesting, and it has to happen in this small area. So really, really tapped into my creativity. Coming from a radio TV background, I broke into the business as a radio disc jockey. I became a radio news reporter, and then a television newsman, a television news reporter covering news in Dallas, Texas, before I got into sports. All of those things require different levels of creativity. So I love that. I love having to do that. And that's what I loved about the virtual. It made me, in some ways, reinvent the way I do things, keep people happy, keep them engaged, keep them wanting more, keep them coming back. So that part I really like. And it's always an ongoing challenge. Okay, in this box, what can I do? And my goal is give them a workout every bit as hard as they're going to get in the gym, make them feel like it's totally worth their time. So it's great. To me, a perfect deal is, and I'm hoping to get back to this soon, I've got so many clients now that are nationwide. I've got probably 8 or 9 people that are scattered around the country, one in South America. And I can see those people staying with me, and there may even be more. So I can see maybe I'd like to get back to the gym, train in person, and then maybe hit a session or 2 virtual, a couple in person, just kind of running back and forth. I don't see the virtual going away. People that used to come to the gym, they love virtual so much, they've told me, I have no interest in going back to the gym. So those people, I have my out of state and out of country people. So I'm virtual as part of the pandemic is now definitely going to be it's part of what I do. And I think it's going to remain that way. But I do want to get back to in person. I know I will. I'm looking forward to it. I do have a bunch of clients who, can't wait to get back to the gym and do some amazing drills that we get to do there at Club 600 that we can't do in our little square.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's a very interesting dynamic because so many people in office buildings and different businesses, they rave about it. They love the virtual. They can get all their work done right here, without even having to leave their home or their office, their apartment. And it's a super time saver between commuting and whatever else have you, traffic. But it's interesting to look at like the fitness industry, because I know so many people who have gained weight or have struggled with their health and wellness over the pandemic because they haven't been able to access to a gym or they don't feel safe going into a gym. So it's great that you can, especially you've had such success doing so. And it's a testament to you being able to gain clients nationwide, and worldwide, is you're able to culminate all your skills and your past experiences, and you've become the sum of those experiences to the point where, you got this, like you're on the ball. Like you have people rolling again, like 6 to 8 clients a day. That's impressive, even in person, but to do it virtually and to have people who are motivated, dedicated, and want to keep coming back. Like that's just a true testament to your skill level.
Thanks so much. I tell you, I've learned so much, having a great opportunity to do all of the things that I've got to do up to this point, meeting some amazing people. That Arthur Ashe was a fantastic guy. I worked with Arthur a lot for a couple of years, pretty straight on. Interviewed all kinds of people from, Muhammad Ali to anybody in the Dallas Cowboy organization, all these just great people. And then people behind the scenes when I was in news, police officers, homicide detectives, all of these different people, just great people, amazing human beings, excelling in their fields, doing these incredible things, and getting to meet especially greatness with Olympic athletes and athletes who are worldwide, they're known worldwide or definitely nationwide. And to get behind these people and realize, who they really are, and to watch them work and to watch them work out, just take all that in. I mean, I've just been so fortunate to see some of the top athletes in all major sports in the United States work out, spring training, football training camp, Olympic athletes training at the Olympic Training Center in Colorado. So just like absorb this stuff like a sponge and just, take all that experience and bring it back out to you and to anybody else that wants to work with me. It's just, I've been very, very fortunate to be able to do what I want to do and have it culminate into this situation here, where I can take what's been done to the top elite athletes in the world, take that in, bring it back out and apply it straight to you. Just phenomenal. I'm very, very fortunate.
Yeah, it's such an exciting lifestyle. There's, I mean, just from you talking, I could just feel the passion and the fire just come from out from your soul. You know, you've been able to have all these experiences in an industry that you clearly love and you enjoy, and you continue to do so and continue to help other people. I mean, that's really what it's all about, is being able to make these connections, make these interactions, and help people along the journey. You know, that is life. And you've been able to do a ton of that, and taken so many great experiences and learn from so many great people at top of their level, top skill level, and clearly it's rubbed off on you with your success now.
Thank you. I do like it. I have learned a lot. I remember, and like when I go with the Dallas Cowboys, I go with them every year to training camp. And I used to love playing a game, just looking at the players coming in, the new players trying out, the veterans, and picking out who's going to be successful, who's going to wash out. And you could just tell by the way they moved. Do they have natural movements? Do they have a natural level? Was it just dumb luck almost? And they could do it, but they're not doing it right. And they're going to destroy their bodies. And they're not going to be very efficient with their bodies. So it's just kind of fun to just watch the best in the world, not only those who succeeded, but those who came so close and struggled, but were just off because maybe not quite the right coaching as they were coming up, not the right body mechanics. A lot of coaches didn't want to mess with body mechanics. If somebody comes in, they're doing really well, and I'm looking at them thinking, oh, that pains me to look at that. That doesn't look right. Coaches might say, but this guy's successful. I don't want to mess with it. I tell you, more often than not, those guys had real short careers. They started to become very injury plagued. And so my passion for this sort of comes from that a lot, saying, how do you take what an athlete can do and be like a Tom Brady and be so successful at what he does by taking care of his body and paying attention to all of his biomechanics? Apply that to every single person that you train, every person that you work with. That's just been really incredible. It's just been this knowledge that has just been absolutely incredible. I've been very, very fortunate.
Yeah, and I mean, that actually led into like my next question. I was going to ask you, like, if you had to pick an area of an expertise within the fitness industry, like, what would you say you specialize more so in, like strength and conditioning, functional movements, functional training, cardio, so on and so forth? Or are you more so you kind of work as like a scientist and you look at the anatomy and the planes of movement and just kind of, get people almost like a Tom Brady to be able to perform, an average everyday person to be able to, almost perform like they were a peak athlete and have their body in like peak shape for like their age and their limitations?
Great question. Actually, I love it all, and I want to do it all with everybody. But it begins with a foundation. If you don't have a good foundation of proper movement, I don't care how many squats, lunges, how you throw your body around, how much cardio you do, how much you feel out of breath, how much that was a great workout. If you don't have good biomechanics, you're sunk. You're going to have pain. You're going to have pain patterns. You're going to have issues which are going to prevent you from working out in the future. First and foremost, solid foundation. What's right with you? What's wrong with you? What do we need to fix? What needs work? That has to be done first in all planes of motion. If I just take a person and just throw them into a bunch of exercises or an exercise class, that person's going to move in the only way they know how to move, be it right or be it wrong. I want it right. If you want longevity and you want a pain-free life, it's got to be right. So I take the foundation of the person, I assess all the movement patterns, and I get them as perfect as I possibly can in all three planes of motion. From that, we grow to everything you just mentioned. It could grow literally to plyometrics, to high intensity training, to all kinds of things, all different weight training, just everything all out, cardio thrown into the mix. Because the biomechanics are sound, now I can do it. If I take someone whose biomechanics are faulty, I'm going to repeat those faulty patterns. I'm going to emphasize them, and I'm going to eventually lead this person down the road to injury. So to your question again, I love it all, but it's got to be done right.
Yeah, exactly. If you're taking a beaten horse who's used to being beaten down and, moving in the wrong direction, and try to guide them, they're just going to be flying blindly. It's like, yeah, maybe they may be able to pull the hay and, do all these other different movements. But at the end of the day, they're going to be worn down. They're going to be beat. They're not in for the long run. It's a short-term gain,
Right.
So you're going to make all this progress, have a fallback due to an injury, which is inevitable to happen, based off their conditioned movements and their conditioned um, biomechanics. And they're just going to end up, they're setting up for failure pretty much. But the way you do it, you almost reassess them, reshape them, put them in the right direction. You recondition so they get to the point where they're better than they started before. They may have to go back a little bit. They get pulled back a little bit, but it's almost like an arrow. Like you have to get pulled back a little bit to shoot forward.
That's right. That's right. I mean, I love nothing more. I mean, I love all of the things I talk about, but I really love it when somebody comes to me and they've had pain patterns their whole life. Maybe they've been to physicians. Some of them have had surgery. Some of them have been to physical therapy to no avail. And I love looking at those people and figuring out what's been missed, what's wrong, what's causing this, identifying it, attacking it, and putting it in the rearview mirror if at all possible. I mean, that to me is one of the great things about this position, this job that you can do that I love when they've had medical clearance and they've been through the medical system and it's still unresolved. That's a lot of fun for me. I mean, not that I don't like the fact that people are in pain, of course, but I love being able to lift them out of this pattern of that kind of destruction that they've been going through.
Yeah, I mean, a saying I saw before related to sports psychology, just the sports industry in general. It's the larger the fall, the greater the comeback. The larger, and people love an underdog story. I mean, like Rocky, I mean Rudy, all those like great sports movies. When you go into like a bad place or like a pit of despair, to be able to come out of it better on the other side, that's just extremely motivational, and it builds your confidence in ways that nothing else really can. I mean, that's part of the beauty of sports is. Even the Patriots, like Super Bowl 51, when they played the Falcons, they came back down 28-3. It's like the odds are stacked against you, but as long as you have that mindset and you're willing to be coached, such as like your clients, they may have setbacks due to physical limitation from physical therapy or an injury, but as long as they're willing to have an open mind and open mindset to work and put the work in and listen to you, they can, make serious long-term adjustments and gain serious progress that's going to help them have a better quality of life.
It's so true. They have to have the will and the power to do that. I mean, I remember when I interviewed Carl Yastrzemski just before he retired, his last year of baseball, he told me that it is successful as he won, Triple Crown winner, as successful as his career was. He said it was tough, man. He said he had to work his butt off, that he didn't have a real natural talent for it. He had to build the strength to work up to get the talent. He grew up in Long Island, potato farmer. His father was a potato farmer, and they'd take the bad potatoes and they'd whip them and try to hit potatoes with a stick ball. I mean, this guy just busted his butt, and it was hard work. But when you watch them on the field, looked kind of natural. Looked like he was, looked like it really wasn't such a big thing. But to your point, this guy busted his butt like a lot of athletes have to. A lot of athletes just don't have the natural talent. They got to bust their butt to get it. And he was, for me personally, one of the greatest examples I could see of somebody who pushed through to a real high level of success, although there's countless cases of people doing that even as we speak today.
Now, if there was one tip you had to give somebody, whether they're a beginner or they're a pro athlete or anything like that, what would it be in terms of getting themselves into the best physical and mental shape as possible?
Well, that's a tough question.
Or a piece of advice,
I know. Well, you have to want it. You can't just say the words. It has to come from the heart. You have to have the feeling and you have to have the passion. If you don't have that, you'll fail. You have to have that. So if you have that commitment and you bring it to the table, you just realize that it's mental and physical together, that you have to work, the mind and body connection. And that not only means on the food that you eat, but it's the way you move and the way you exercise. As people, we're supposed to move all the time. Our body gets health through movement. A male's supposed to move about 10 to 12 miles a day, a woman at least 6 to 8 miles a day, according to an anthropologist I trained at Harvard University. Movement is health. You get massage of all the glands on the body, the hormones, blood flow, all that. So you've got to move. So you got to eat right and you have to move. I mean, that would be basic. Honestly, it's basic advice. Keep moving. Don't sit around. Be as active as you possibly can. Find something to be passionate about that gives you a chance to move your body, to want to move your body. Hopefully you want to go to a gym, but even if you don't want to go to a gym, get outside, do some walking, do a little running, whatever physical activity would encourage you to do it. You want it, that's where you want to be. You have to keep moving, basically keep moving.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, and that's just a great analogy on life in general. You know, if something comes up, you just got to keep moving. You know, you have a fork in the road, you just got to keep moving. You know,
Exactly.
if you stay put, then you become stagnant and then you're going to be completely off track and completely get discombobulated.
You do,
You know, and
you
especially
do.
when it comes to other people, it's, it's so hard for other people, you know, to find the motivation. So they may get dependent on another person to be that extra push. But I tell people all the time, friends, family, loved ones, boyfriend, girlfriend, doesn't really matter. It's, you know, I can walk beside you on the path. You know, I can hold your hand, I can walk beside you on the path, but I can't walk it for you. You know, I can't drag you to the finish line. Like you're gonna have to run it. You're gonna have to walk it. So I may be here as a support system, which I'm sure you feel the same way. Like, you know, as a personal trainer, as a coach, you know, friend, family member, all the different roles you fill. You're there to help them out, but ultimately it's their path to walk, it's their life to live. But you can give them all the advice they want, but if they're not willing to take it and they're not willing to go with it, then it's not going to work out.
So true. You hit it on the head. It is so true.
Now, we're talking a lot about health and fitness and wellness and all that, eating healthy, moving. What are some of your other favorite hobbies besides fitness, or what are some of your like guilty pleasures like for food and stuff? I'm curious.
Well, for food, I always feel like I live my life that I want to grab some things that are maybe not good for you, but just do them in moderation.
Yep.
So, I mean, I basically and generally try to eat very well and very healthy. I try to eat food closest to the source as I possibly can. I have greens and salads every day, along with healthy proteins and complex carbohydrates. But beyond all that stuff, I like sweets sometimes. So I may give myself a treat of some dark chocolates occasionally. Maybe once in a while, I'll get an ice cream or something. See, I think that total denial doesn't necessarily work and can cause a rebound effect. If you know that you can live basically a nice, healthy lifestyle and still get to do some of the things that are maybe quote unquote a little naughty, then you can do it. You can maintain it. I know I stay healthy. I try to stay in shape. That doesn't mean I can't have that ice cream cone if I want it, that piece of dark chocolate I want it, whatever else that kind of makes me happy. Food that makes you happy increases your endorphins. It actually is measured it chemically in the brain. Neuroscientists have. It causes a positive physiological effect. So as long as the food's not putting on the weight and you're not doing it excessively, I believe that those treats are an important part of being healthy, honestly. So you don't deny, not denial, just moderation and wise choices. So that's where I am on food and diet. Fitness is my passion, and it always has been. I walk the walk. When I'm not training people, I'm working myself. I'm moving all the time. I get cardio all the time. Get strength training all the time. I try not to sit that much. I will foam roll. I will stretch. I will try to feed the body health and wellness. Get outside, drink in the air, look around, talk to people, be engaged in conversation. Keep the brain engaged. Keep the brain and body engaged. Keep it all moving. Earlier in my career, I've traveled a lot. I've traveled a ton all over the United States. So for over 10 years, I had a job where I got on a plane to go to work every day. So the travel, though I do like to travel some, I've done hundreds of thousands of miles of travel. So I find that even though I still enjoy that, I like to find the pleasure in my own environment, in the places I live and the people I know. And I try to just really grab from that as much as I can every day.
Yeah, I mean that's just a beautiful way to look at it. You're, as long as you keep an open mind and you're willing to take in the people in your environment, you always will continue to grow and always continue to gain a better perspective. And then like you were saying, like how even when you're not, you know, training other people, like you're pretty much fully engulfed with the fitness. I just have to say that little off topic, but I absolutely love all the pictures you're always posting on Facebook of those walks you always go on near your house when you're walking your dog. Like all those are just lovely pictures.
Thank you. You know, obviously, when I broke into television, the first job I had in TV was as a television photographer. When you're in the smaller markets, you're not only the reporter, but you're the photographer. So we'd go out in teams of two. So I would be his photographer, he would be my photographer. So photography, I've always had a nice talent for it. And so I've got an eye. You got the eye or you don't. I've got the eye. I got paid professionally to be a photographer for years. So thank you for that. I still love photography. I guess to your point earlier, hobbies, I suppose so. Anytime I go out, I'm taking my camera with me. So you're absolutely right. I guess that is something I like to do. I'm still passionate about photography because it's just a lot of fun for me. I love to see the beauty in the viewfinder. I love to see the beauty in the world and just put it through my eyes and just get it out to you.
Yeah, absolutely. Now, how do you manage to stay so motivated? Like, is it just based off your pure passion for fitness in the health industry, or is there like certain things that push you?
It's a good question. I don't understand this, but I was born with this. All of my life, I have been fascinated with wellness and health and the body. I remember I was in elementary school pouring through medical encyclopedias. It's a very bizarre, I don't really know where it comes from. There's nobody in my family that is into this or is a doctor or anything. I've always had a fascination with the body, how it works. First, I was medically, I wanted to know about the kidneys and the liver and the spleen and everything, and what they are and what they do and how they work and how they stay healthy and what goes wrong with them. And then that transcended into, well, I don't want to be a doctor, but go ahead and take it out. And then I took it out into the world of fitness. And as I said, at the age of 17, saying, I want to know what's the toughest thing in the world a guy could do. It's physical. And at the time I thought, military basic training. So so I don't know where the drive comes from, but I've always had that drive and that energy. I'm a real observer of people, which is why I'd like to think I was a good reporter because I'm an observer and I pick up things on people. I pick up subtleties. And I've seen people in all walks of life, those down on the street to those who have been super, super successful and everybody in between. I've always analyzed what is it about this person that makes them successful? Why is this person in the dirt? What about this person in the middle? Why can't he or she stray? Go to this side instead of going back to this side. I've been a fascinating observer of humanity. And I've had all of these jobs being paid as an observer, as a radio and television reporter, right? As a sports reporter, as a producer, to observe behavior, observe people. And I think, I don't know where it comes from, but that's just ingrained in me. Always has been. Always has been. It's funny, even in video, to the point, not to get too technical,
Yep.
but a lot of times would be in the edit bay, and I'd be looking at something, we'd be passing through, and I'd say, whoa, stop that. Let's roll it back. And we'd roll it back, and it would typically be maybe 3 or 4 frames, frame 30 seconds, 30 frames is a second in video. So typically, I could see maybe 3 or 4 frames that nobody else could pick up if something's wrong. It was a glitch in the video or something went wrong. So I've always had, I don't know, it's a keen insight. And even when I'm training people, I can see things that they'll be super, super subtle, a fraction of a second. And I can pick up on it and then ride with that. And that takes me down where I need to go with that person. So I think that I don't know where it comes from. I was just born with it. Just observe, 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 and learn.
Yeah, you're a natural. You just have that innate ability, and that's a phenomenal tool to have. And it's amazing how, there's so many times where people kind of waste away their talents. They keep it to themselves or they don't develop it. They don't build on it. They don't grow from it. And clearly you've had a lifetime worth of experiences to continue to grow and refine that skill and share it with other people. And that's just a testament to your work ethic and your true passion for it.
Thanks. And it's a respect for other people as well. I really have that. And I think that that's super important, to respect other people and to have the opportunity to meet with some of the greatest people in their industry and to see how they are and how they react and how celebrities who treated people poorly as opposed to celebrities who treat people really well. And just looking at the two behaviors and the two type of people and what their attitude is on life, how they live their life. People who are miserable to people are typically miserable themselves, and vice versa. People who are really I go back to Arthur Ashe. Arthur Ashe was one of the nicest guys you could ever know. This guy was well known in his time. They named the stadium after him. Is probably how people know him today, right? But I mean, I knew the guy. I remember one time we were working together. He took us to the Hard Rock in LA. So we see a long line. So what does Arthur do? He doesn't play like a big shot. He takes us all to the back of the line until about a minute and a half later, the manager of the Hard Rock says, "Holy cow, Arthur Ashe is in the back of the line." So he comes and grabs Arthur and he brings us all to the front of the line, puts us in the VIP thing, gives us all t-shirts and all this other stuff. But the point being, Arthur Ashe was the most humble guy in the world, yet his face in his heyday could get him in anywhere doing anything, but he wouldn't do it. And he was the greatest human being. That behavior in public is the guy he was in private. What you put out, in my opinion, is what comes back, whether you realize it or not, internally. That's going to come back at you. And I think, to be able to see that in so many different celebrities and so many different people and just regular people over the years really had a huge impact on me. And I try to emulate the best of those things. I grew up without a father. So as a kid, I think part of it stems from, I always look at the different fathers. About, okay, which father do I like? If I was a father, what would I be like? This guy, I like this about him. I like this about him. I like this about him. And try to put all these characters of what makes a good guy. I like the toughness over here and make that me. So it's kind of funny. Instead of one father to emulate, I tried to emulate all of these guys who were very successful in their life, who had different qualities and different traits, bring them all together, meld them into one human being, and try to become that person. Whether I become that person or not, who knows? But that's part of what it's where it comes from. It's kind of funny just not having a dad, how that just kind of brings it all out to so many different things.
Yeah. I mean, and that got me thinking, I think about this all the time. It's like people who set high goals, even if they don't reach their goals, they're working so hard and they're trying to constantly improve themselves so much that, yeah, maybe at the end of the day, you don't reach the goal, but you're going to be in a hell of a lot better place than you were before. And you can look back at your progress and just realize, wow, I became this great, amazing person along the journey. Because so much with life, it's not always about reaching the goal. It's about the journey along the way and finding yourself and getting rid of those toxic traits and bad behaviors and bad habits along the way.
Exactly. I mean, the whole thing go to the sayings, it's about the journey, not the destination.
Yeah.
John Lennon, life is what happens to you while you're busy making other plans. I mean, it's true. You have to, it's the day to day to day to day. And all the stuff you were, I mean, when I was in covering news and I'd come upon the scene of a tragedy, maybe an auto fatality or homicide or a drowning victim, every time I went to every one of those things, I would say to myself, this person did not plan to die today. I would always think this person had plans for the weekend, maybe had a summer vacation, wanted to have a family, wanted to have kids, whatever, did not plan to die today. And that's how we should be living our lives. None of us plan to die today, but there will be a day when we will. So you have to go ahead and enjoy and embrace what it is you're doing now, not to get, as to your point, Mike, so obsessed with what's out there that you forget you're blowing off the day.
Yeah. I mean, that gave me chills just thinking about all that, really soaking that in. That's such a wonderful way to look at life. And I can only wish that more people looked at it that way.
It was again, it came early. I'll sort of ended here. Just one saying. One time I went to there was a death at the lake.
Yep.
23-year-old man dies at the lake, and I thought, okay, I got to get out there and cover this. It's a news story. He either drowned or he was shot. So I went out there, and in Texas, it's the justice of the peace they would call out to pronounce the body dead. So I went out there, and I see the justice of the peace. I see the body laying there. The justice of the peace comes out to me, and I go up to him, eager young reporter. Okay, what do we got here? Lead story on the news tonight. Was it drowning? Was this a homicide? What is it? He looks at me and goes, "Young man, he died of natural causes. You can die of natural causes whether you're 23 or 83." I'll never forget it. Stuck with me so much. I'm thinking, well, for one thing, this is not a news story, a natural death. It's kind of sad in itself. But another thing, to realize how fragile we are at such a young age was really sobering for me.
Yeah. I mean, even myself, I'm a pretty young man. I've gotten a little bit over as I've grown through experiences and had my fair share of injuries and experiences, to come to realize that I'm not invincible. But there's always that little speck of me that feels like, hey, I'm a strong young kid. Like I'm gonna push through. Like I'll be all right for a long, long time. But life is fleeting. You never know just in a snap when it could go. So, like you were saying before, it's just day by day. You got to make the most of each day if you truly want
Yeah.
to have a quality life and you truly want to make the most of it with the people you care about.
And I mean, I guess to me, seeing so many honestly violent deaths as I've seen so many corpses pulled out of cars. I've seen so many bodies pulled out of rivers. I've seen bullet-riddled bodies. I mean, that's a lot of that really smacks you right in the face.
Yeah.
And these are all young people, of course, almost all across the board. Teens to maybe 30 or something as an average age. I mean those kind of images, it's either gonna like devastate you, have you cowering, or it's gonna make you come up and say, something. This life is very, very precious that we have here. There are no guarantees about anything. And this body of ours that we think is so tough, I'm looking at these different, not to be gross, bloated bodies when you're coming out of it, whatever it is, the
Mhm.
body just gets so torn up so easily that you have to respect it. You have to respect that.
Every day is a gift. That's why they call it the present, right?
You got it.
Yeah. Now, Bob, I've had such a great chat with you. If other people want to get in touch with you and reach out to you, whether it be for training or just advice in general, what would be the best way for them to reach you?
Well, just probably through Summit. They could just do my or Club 600. I think it's still the Summit email though. bgarvin at summitbedford.com. I believe that's still the way. That'd be a great way to do it. That'd be the best way to get a hold of me.
Yeah. Well, I've had such a great time chatting with you, Bob. I'm definitely going to have to reconnect with you soon, outside of this podcast and just continue to pick your brain about some of your experiences because a lot of the stuff that you said really hit home to me, whether it was fitness related or not. And I just really appreciate being able to, almost like how when you were younger, you soaked in knowledge from so many masterful and wonderful people. I kind of feel like it's a little bit of like a role reverse. Like now you're the teacher and I'm like the young student just trying to soak in the knowledge. It's just been so educational and so eye-opening just to be able to sit down with you for these last few minutes.
I want to say the same thing. You like, I appreciate the honor. I got to tell you, I love your posts. I look at your posts
Thank
and
you.
they're just so positive and they're motivational, and a lot of them are pretty deep. So I mean, you're well on your journey to being what you want to be. I can tell by the things that you post.
But thank you. I appreciate that. I've always honored myself and try to keep myself humbled as well with being a deep thinker and a deep empathizer of other people and a connector. I like to thrive in leadership roles, so I always like to be able to connect with so many different people, which clearly you're a great example of being able to do that.
Well, thanks so much for having me, Mike. This was a lot of fun. I really enjoyed it.
Yeah, let's do it again.
All right. You
All
take
right,
care.
Bob. Take care. I'll talk
Bye-bye.
to you soon.
Okay.
Thank you.